I've decided to change the order slightly of the videos, so we're going to be covering God and atheism today before we cover telos. So, we are now faced with the existence of God. We have discussed earlier on about existence being something that is present in all things and yet has to be a particular thing, because to say that existence doesn't exist is a contradiction. But for it to exist, it must be something. So we have this existence, which in some manner pervades and provides existence to all things. That is what we've discovered in previous videos. But how can this be God? Let us return to our consideration of the intellect, where, if we recall correctly, that the intellect, because of its determinate content, is distinct from physical things because physical things are not determinate in their content, as James Ross discusses in his paper Immaterial Aspects of Thought. As a refresher, consider a sentence written on a page in English. Consider it being, "Dog chases the cat up the tree." Now, if we look at what it actually is in the physical world, we see what we would consider to be graphite, joining together different letters to form something that is recognizable with definitive content to our minds, provided we're conditioned to associate the symbol with some sort of word. But it's not inherent in the symbol itself that it should mean this. Take another example, a triangle. Edward Fazer uses this example when he discusses this proof. It could represent many different things. It could be the symbol for a 1930s fascist party. It could be the symbol for a punk band. It could simply be a description of the Pythagorean theorem. But we have to recognize what the symbol represents. But this isn't present actually in the physical content of the symbol itself. It's only graphite on the page. Therefore, we must consider our consideration of these things to be non-physical. Another aspect of non-physical things is that they are not decomposable. Physical things are composed of other things, whereas the non-physical is not. You cannot break down a non-physical thing. Take, for example, the sentence that we talked about earlier with the cat and the dog. If we were to cut this down into two pieces, because all writing is a kind of symbolic representation of what we're thinking, we wouldn't have a broken down thought. We would have two separate thoughts entirely. They would describe an entirely different thing. And therefore we can say that our thoughts are simple. This also means that our minds are also simple, because if we look at a human person, where people typically consider somebody to be thinking is in the brain, or we can really consider the entire body for this, let's say just the entire central nervous system. The problem with this is that all of this is physical and therefore it's indeterminate, therefore it can't be containing the thought. Therefore the mind must be immaterial and simple and determinate in its content. So, we have established that the intellect, our mind, is something that is not physical and is simple, that is, without parts. We can say a similar thing for our thoughts as well, because, as with thoughts, when the object of our will changes, it just changes the will entirely in its choice. It doesn't, decay or anything. And as we stated earlier on about the sustaining of all existent things by existence, that means that the simple mind and the simple will, when I say mind and intellect, I'm meaning the same thing in this case, these things must be sustained by existence. But they aren't things that are composed to build some sort of engine. They are things that are simply there. And therefore we must say that in their fullness, the quality of the intellect and the will is present there in the unmoved mover. This also has to be the same thing with physical things as well, just for those who would think that God can't know physical things, because these things exist as well, therefore there must be some sort of element of their entire existence within the thought of existence. And that was a kind of a spoiler alert. That means that the whole intellect and the whole will, insofar as they are intellects and will, not insofar as they're instantiated, must dwell within this existence. And this makes for the classically theistic God. This makes for the God of the Bible and of the Quran and of the philosopher. And so we have essentially here obliterated Reddit atheism. I hope that you found this useful, guys. Remember to tune into my Patreon. I produce Latin readers there. If you're interested in Latin, please give me money on Patreon and I'll give them to you. Please subscribe and discuss this video. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.